It is a period of civil war. Rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil galactic empire. During the battle, rebel spies managed to steal secret plans to the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. Persuaded by the Empire's sinister agents, Princess Leia races home aboard her starship, custodian of the stolen plans that can save her people and restore freedom to the galaxy.
Welcome to the Walt Vault with
Michelle,
Andre,
Luis,
and me, Emily. We're a family-friendly podcast where we pick a new Disney movie each week. We watch it, share our thoughts, and then relate it to pop culture, fandoms, and anything else that pops into our heads. Enjoy!
hello and welcome to the Walt Vault, episode 86. I would like to take a moment to thank all of you who have subscribed to this show. You're my favorite type of person. And then I would like to thank patrons of the show who went to patreon.com/thewaltvault and are patrons of the show. You're my extra favorite types of persons.
Andre's just in a really good mood right now because of what we're doing right now.
Also, we just got fed, so.
Oh, there's that.
Yeah.
But why are you excited? What are we doing?
This week, we are talking about the
Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea?
1977
Return to the sea.
live action
Into the sea we go.
space opera
Space opera.
fantasy blockbuster
Treasure Planet?
Star Wars A New Hope episode 4.
Yeah, I didn't know how to write all that out when I was on Instagram. I was like, which comes first? And I redid it like 3 times and I was like, done, just leaving it.
Well,
so when it came out, was it called episode 1?
no, it didn't have an episode.
It's called New Hope.
It was just Star Wars and New Hope.
It also wasn't A New Hope. It was called Star Wars when it came out.
Yeah,
That's it.
Wow, Andre's
Star
going to
Wars.
teach us some knowledge. But
Oh, yeah.
before we get into this,
Shh, Captain's teaching stuff. If you don't know what that's from, then you're done.
Andre has seen this movie.
She doesn't know.
I
That's
don't
why she
know.
keeps
I'm
talking.
sorry. Andre has seen this movie 10,000 times. I've probably seen this movie 5 times. Emily didn't remember it. And I think Luis kind of remembered it. So should we do first impression upon this viewing?
Let's just do impression. Just do it.
Of
Just
Star
an
Wars in
impression.
general or this movie?
This movie, because we're only talking
We're only
this
talking
movie.
about this
And
movie.
everyone's looking at Michelle right now.
Oh.
We're only talking this
We're
movie.
only talking about episode 4.
I want to hear nothing about
Baby
nothing.
Yoda?
No!
Okay.
Oh, hey, if you want to hear us talk about Baby Yoda, though, we're going to do our after show, a Crack in the Vault, right after this. And we're going to talk about the first season of The Mandalorian. So go to patreon.com/thewaltvault.
I'm going to take this moment to apologize for my husband.
What
who
did he
thinks
say?
He has the microphone in his face all the time, but he's in the other room screaming in, and so you might hear him. I don't know.
I didn't hear him. I got
What did he
headphones on.
say?
Okay, he said he laid an egg, which, in reference
Okay.
to Baby
We'll
Yoda.
talk about that.
But, Luis, I'm telling you, when you would like to talk, put the microphone next to your mouth.
We got to
He's
get
getting
him
some milk.
We got to get him a headset.
My God.
Luis
Luis likes milk. He's getting some milk.
Bluetooth headset.
Anyways, Andre, let's let you start.
Well, actually, I wanted to start with you.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Because I'm going to be long-winded.
Okay, first impression of this Star Wars movie.
No, give me your first impression the first time you watched it, because you're the only one who didn't watch. You watched it as an adult for the first time.
So fun fact about me, I had probably only seen maybe like 30 minutes of a Star Wars movie here or there when it was on TV and my father was watching it. So I hadn't seen Star Wars until Andre and I were dating, and he was like, "You're watching Star Wars." So
this is a prerequisite to marriage, Missy.
It was
Yeah,
a prerequisite
basically it
to
was.
third date. I was
And
like, I ain't going
I'm
out
not
with
mad
you
about
again.
it because I'm kind of Star Wars obsessed now. It's an issue. My first impression, like when I watched this movie first off, was I thought it like the creatures looked fake and stuff. I mean, this movie came out in '77, but I also still felt like it held up extremely well. Like most of the time, if I'm watching a movie from the '70s and it's live action, I'm probably not enjoying it that much necessarily. Yeah. So I think like the first time I watched it, I really, really liked that. It was good. And then each movie after kept getting better. So that's like what hooked me in more.
Sure.
But I think like as an introduction to characters and a storyline and things like that that can be developed even more, it's a super good first movie. And for its time, it was absolutely amazing. It's not the one that I go back to like watch now that I've seen all of the Star Wars movie.
Right.
Everybody has a select few that they want to go watch, but it's up there, like compared to the others. It's really, really good, and it guess it made me start liking Star Wars. So, go A New Hope.
Boom.
All right, Emily, this
Can you
viewing.
hear the baby through the microphone?
She's laughing at Louis.
Only a little bit.
The baby is, if you can hear my baby, she is going like nuts laughing right now. And it's distracting because it's so cute.
She having a giggle fit.
Yeah, she giggling. So my impression, I will say, I watched this as a kid and I remember liking it as a kid. I remember.
Pause. I almost said in the theater.
Yeah, I
saw this
definitely
in the
watched it
theater.
in the theater.
I was like, wow, you're so lucky.
1977.
I know. I did. What?
What?
Luis said
said
technically
technically.
I did. Again, he's talking without the microphone.
Very far away from the
I'm
mics.
confused as to what he's saying.
Y'all can't hear.
I will say number one that I like episode 4, 5, and 6 better than obviously 1, 2, and 3, but also
Amen.
but also better than
7, 8.
7,
Or
2, Rogue, 11.
Solo.
I like these the best.
Yes.
So that makes me happy. But Luis told me when we sat down to watch this viewing that we had watched this movie like last year or something. And I seriously do not remember. Like, I feel like I either blocked it out or just absolutely was not paying attention.
But I'm like that with certain movies too.
So,
But wait, did you guys just watch this one, or did you watch all 3 of them at the time?
apparently we watched all 3 because we have them on DVD.
Gotcha.
But my point in bringing that up is that this was almost like a first impression. So we rewatched all the movies because we had all the DVDs, apparently, allegedly. But I swear I didn't watch them because when we rewatched this movie all together the other night, there was so many things that were like, hold on, what? Just because I haven't seen it in so long, quote unquote. But first impression, I do like it. I am not a huge Star Wars fan in general, but I liked it. So franchise-wise, it's cool. But I liked this movie.
But I mean, coming from someone who's not a huge Star Wars fan, if they like the movie, that's a pretty good sign,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Sorry, a
I
pretty
think
good
so.
movie.
And like you said, it holds up well enough for us to
Yeah.
watch it, 40 years later
40
and
years
be
later.
cool
I mean,
with
we
it.
could tell what effects they're using, and we did watch the remastered version, so they had added in some CG stuff, but
Yes.
it's still very good.
Lou, what's your first
special
impression?
edition.
Or impression? Or impression?
I liked it a lot. I think I saw the one that did not have a remastered version of it.
Oh, did you?
And I know we're probably going to talk about that whole remastered stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we'll
Yeah, we
touch
will.
on it.
I'll save what I have to say about that later. But I liked it. Out of all of them, I'm going to go against you guys and say 1, 2, and 3 were pretty dang good as far
Yeah.
as the storyline goes.
That's what you said the other day. You like 1, 2, 3.
I appreciate the storyline as a fan of the series. Was it poorly executed? Damn straight diggity. But the story behind it, to me, it was had more substance to
I
it
don't
than
disagree
4,
with
5,
you,
and 6.
because I do find myself going, 1, I completely leave out. I'd go back to 2, 3 for like storyline stuff, and it is good. Like, it's visually appealing and stuff.
There's a lot of conceptual stuff that's
yeah.
that's good in those movies.
So-
Storyline, I thought it was great. Like I said, in terms of the big picture, the writing.
Well, it
was
brings
not the
together a
best.
storyline that's already
Yeah,
established.
that's already,
Right.
yeah, which is always cool.
And
I
that may be the feeling that I get with those.
Brings
but
you up
either
to
way,
speed.
I really still like this one still. It was good.
And I think before Andre gets into his long-winded first impression, because I know it's going to be long, I think something we watched this, all 4 of us watched this together, which was really good. I think that we did.
Yeah.
But I think something that hit us was like a nostalgia factor, like seeing those 3 actors, one of whom has passed, like very young,
Mm-hmm.
which is like really cool. You know what
Well,
I mean? When you
especially-
go back and see that, it's like, whoa.
Well, and especially now that we're not rewatching, but now we have very realistic, up-to-date versions of these characters in real
Mhm.
time. playing the same character, just older. It's not just like you're like, oh, well, I mean, I've seen Harrison Ford play something in his older years. No, it's Harrison Ford playing Han Solo as
and
an
he
as
still
an old
looks.
Wait, and I think, Andre, you said this was the second major motion film after
He did American Graffiti before this, and that was basically it. Yeah, he did.
He was pretty good in that.
Yeah.
Like,
I've actually never seen it. I should probably watch that.
it's good.
Well, it's funny because before you get into your long-winded response, the reason you want to see American Graffiti is because who is it directed by?
George
And
Lucas.
where do we live?
Well, Louise, talking to your microphone.
Same person who directed Star Wars.
Yes.
Exactly.
And where
the
do we
importance of that is
Motown, baby.
We live in Modesto, where George Lucas was born, and every year we have an American Graffiti Festival, and they play the movie at the State Theater, which I've done and gone and seen, and they drive around in their old cars, and George Lucas comes out in the parade, and he just waves.
We're right in the middle of Star Wars land.
Yes, we are.
Right here.
Not really.
Modesto. Shh. Let me have
never
this.
seen
Let
him.
me have this.
All right, babe,
Oh
go
yeah.
for it.
So my first impression. Well,
Well,
this movie is like very important to me, and I think it's because this type of movie, this like hero's journey kind of thing, is like what I really grew up on, and all those types of stories are amazing, and I think this is the best one. And I saw this at an age, I probably watched this for the first time in like 1998 or 1999, whenever my dad saw that they were making more Star Wars and was like, oh, that's right, Star Wars exists. I better show this to the nerd boy I got. And
The nerd boy I got.
and he did, and I like fell in love with this. So I watched it a lot of times, just a few times, and every time I feel like I get something new out of it, which feels good. So upon this viewing, I enjoyed it a whole bunch, and that's mostly because I just watched the Empire of Dreams documentary about Star Wars, which is on Disney Plus. I highly suggest that you go watch it. It's fantastic if you want to learn more about Star Wars. And so that gives me an even deeper appreciation of this movie upon this viewing.
well, and that was really cool too because like we're watching the movie and Andre was able to give us information from that documentary and you know, we kind of paused and he would be like, well, right here they did XYZ or and they changed this up or they did this. And it's interesting because not many movies that I've ever seen, even old ones, have been even remastered or added things in, but
reworked a lot.
Yeah.
like changed scenes. So that's
Added-
really interesting
Added
too.
scenes, yeah. This movie has been updated over time, which doesn't happen to a ton of movies.
That's a
But,
George Lucas thing because
that
he
is
was
a
he was
George
waiting for us
Lucas
to have
thing.
the tech. That's why he didn't do the prequels.
Yeah, that's
What an interesting
He could have started.
forecast
Well,
to
he
be
could
able
have.
to-
Yeah, he could have started with those, but he was like, "Nah, I gotta save the good Jedi stuff until we got more technology."
the dude was legit a genius, and
Yeah.
and this movie in particular like really shows off how much of a genius he was, because before this movie there weren't giant blockbusters like this. This was like the first huge modern blockbuster in film history.
It was in the theater for like a year.
Yeah, for a year, and then you know subsequent re-releases and whatnot. It was extremely popular.
That's
but
crazy.
it was also like a crazy movie. Like the effects and stuff that he set up to make this were completely unheard of. I think he like built computers. He started ILM, the Industrial Light and Magic, which eventually went on to create the first Pixar computer, and that's how that company got started. He created Lucasfilm and LucasArts and what was the other one? THX, the sound thing that you hear in front of every movie. Before he
Yeah,
did
that.
Star Wars and before he did American Graffiti, he made a short film called THX 1138 or something like that, which is like a weird sci-fi black and white movie that I have not watched. So he built so much stuff that Hollywood is now like
reaping the huge benefits
riding
from.
on the backs of, and
All right, George.
it's crazy because when I think of
Because you went to Downey High School.
yeah,
Yes, he did. My mom likes to remind me of that a lot. I went to Downey, and that's where
It's
he
like,
went.
George Lucas, we're the same.
Y'all weren't there at the
My
same
grandma
time.
to the dentist because it's on Coffee Road in Modesto. Oh my God, that's where George Lucas went to high school.
George Lucas went to the dentist.
I don't think he went to the same dentist.
Nobody that goes there probably cares. They're like, cool.
Great. So yeah, this movie is a touchstone and a classic and a feature, and I likes it.
And I likes it.
Impression over.
So, overall, and I'm not trying to dumb down the storyline, but overall, it's pretty simple.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Which actually gives it, to me, more merit because they played into the simplicity of the story. Like, they allowed it to kind of be, a boy, Luke, right? Luke wants to get off his planet, wants to do something big, immediately gets the opportunity, jumps planet, gets into like the craziest situations possible, and then ends up becoming a rebel at the end.
Yes, a hero.
Which is a hero in our senses.
Yeah.
That always,
Yeah, he
Jedi.
gets a medal.
100% always confused me as a kid because they were called the rebels.
Uh-huh.
So to me, in my kid head, because I watched it younger than. So how old do you think you were when you first watched
Probably
it?
like 7 or 8 or 9 or something.
I was
like that.
probably similar, and I remember hearing rebels and stuff, and in my mind, rebels were bad,
bad,
right?
yeah.
Because when you hear the word
Yeah,
like, oh, he's a
rebellion.
rebel,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
right? So I always couldn't figure out which one was which.
It's the good rebels and the evil Galactic Empire.
But doesn't Galactic Empire sound so cool?
Yeah,
I'm
it
just
does.
saying.
It's crazy.
I'm just saying. But anywho, I think that's so cool that they were able to put so much good stuff into a very simple story.
Yeah,
Totally.
it's like, hey, what if a fairy tale happened in space, basically?
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you this too, that I do remember the first time I saw it, or at least when I was a kid, thinking that the spaceships, especially like the first run, right, where what is that, a speeder, or not a speeder,
The Star Destroyer?
the Star Destroyer comes in, I remember thinking like, oh my God, that's so scary.
Yeah, dude.
Like as a kid. And it, even in the 90s, that was, they had come up with cooler technology than that, but
Sure.
it just holds up so well.
Yeah, it holds up crazy well. Sure, are we going to jump into the plot? What should we do?
Whatever you want to do.
I
I
don't
mean, we can talk music first because that's my favorite part of the whole thing. Because that's Michelle's favorite.
Just right to the
I hate
Cantina
that
song.
song.
Oh, stop.
I hate it.
What's it from, Lou?
Star Wars.
Oh my God.
Cantina band.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Louis
See?
doesn't like the Cantina
He didn't like the aliens.
patrons.
It's a hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah.
They're all scum in there.
Yep. Scummy scum with scummy music.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, well, aside from the Cantina song, which I do like,
I like it.
This movie has amazing music. Yeah, Johnny Dubs, the homie, Johnny Williams.
John Williams.
Johnny Dubs does all the dubs.
I appreciate a lot of different composers for movies, but Johnny Dubs takes the cake. He's number one.
Oh, for sure.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
He's done every single Star Wars movie, correct?
Well, he's done all of the saga
episodes.
films. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
The thing about John Williams, I think, is that he has a larger than life sound.
Mhm.
And that always brings a touch of unique, it's nostalgia, but it's also just like power to his songs.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
like triumph.
think about the first thing that you hear when Star Wars starts. It's just, it's literally an explosion of sound.
And Andre gets so stinking excited every time. We just saw
Yeah.
episode
9.
9 in the theater, and he waits for that moment, like when it goes black, and he's like,
Yeah.
and then it plays the sound. It's iconic.
It's beautiful.
It's amazing. It's awesome. It's the greatest. And then that leads into the lovely crawl that we
Bum,
heard
bum,
Luis
bum,
read at the beginning of this
bum,
episode.
bum, 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 bum.
And the crawl is very like old school.
For sure.
It's like,
I love it.
hello, folks.
Well, and it also is
Here's
easy.
some information.
Yeah, it's also easy because they're going to tell you exactly where you are. Like, this is what's
Yeah.
happening. Here you go.
Yeah.
They don't have to set it up
Ta-da.
more than that.
I actually
you know
kind of like it because if you get all that, then it's like jump into the story, y'all. We already halfway there.
Exactly.
You
No,
guys-
they are. They're halfway through the story already.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna laugh. But my favorite part about that whole thing is when you're getting towards the end. It has that little jingle. like the whole thing is very big, like you guys say. But to me, the best part about it is right when it kind of
That's right when it's
does. It
trailing
dies
Yeah,
down
down.
yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
goes- and it gets you
Andre
to
could
where-
probably do it like perfectly.
No, I can't recreate all those instruments
Whoa.
with my mouth.
Well,
But-
what the heck?
I'm
You did the
sorry.
lightsaber for freaking 3 hours in
Oh,
my
yeah.
on my couch, and you can't do the jingle.
Yeah, lightsaber's funner.
Yep. That's my husband.
The music was what we were talking about, right?
Well, it's
John.
good. I
It's-
mean, I don't think anyone's gonna say it's bad.
All Star
It's
Wars
jolly good.
music is good. It just is.
I realized something the other day, or not, while I was watching the documentary, is that this movie took place in the 70s, and a lot of the 70s movies have like a lot of like 70s music in them.
Not this one.
And this one could have had like a bunch of disco beats as Luke is like running through
That's-
the
Can
Death
you
Star
imagine
stuff.
how
Can you
awful that
imagine?
would
Oh
have
my
been?
gosh,
That would be
Holy
terrible.
moly!
thank
The,
the good Lord.
the music like really brings this movie together. I think it's a major part of what makes it good. Like if it was any other music, or if it was horrible disco or whatever, it truly would be a clunker of a movie. I think
No, I agree.
it removes like 40% of its charm.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
Luis, you want to know why I like episode 1? And the only reason I like episode 1 is Duel of the Fates.
What happened to we're talking about episode 4?
Well, he was talking about why he liked 1, 2, 3, and we're talking about music, and Emily's giving me eyes. I can't do it, y'all. I can't do it.
Okay, so this is where we're gonna start. I looked at everyone when we were watching the movie, and I said, all that I ask is that you shut your face.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
And
shut my face.
You didn't. Never mind.
Apparently, I didn't.
Never mind.
everybody but Andre had their mouths going. Luis had his mouth going. Michelle had her mouth going. And I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot that. Oh, well, thanks for reminding me. Well, now the movie's ruined.
listeners, do you want to know what she forgot? She forgot.
Hey,
that
that's not in this movie.
it's,
Boom.
it's common
Ah,
knowledge. She forgot that Darth Vader
Oh
was
my
Luke's
goodness.
father.
Wakem chaka.
What?
That was some Jabba stuff.
Well, here's the deal. When I watch a movie, I'm the opposite of everyone else. I get fully immersed in the moment of the movie. I try not to think about like in the future, here, there, everywhere. I think
Yeah.
about what's happening right now. So if we're not there yet in the story, my brain's not there yet.
Yeah.
I literally live my life day to day. Okay, I can't think about Sunday because tomorrow is Saturday. You
I'm
know what I'm saying?
literally the
Right.
complete opposite. If I have
Oof.
seen an entire, like, every time we watch a Marvel movie, I'm thinking about what happened in the Marvel movies before and the Marvel movies in the future. Like, don't they know Thanos is gonna come? They don't know yet. Like, that's just how my brain is. Like, I can't do it.
So yes, I did forget that.
Yeah, that there are some familial relationships.
What are you
going
gonna do?
on in this movie? But not really. Not really.
But they
in
none
this
of them
movie.
know.
So
right
that-
now, Luke doesn't know. Leia doesn't know.
That's a very-
Darth don't know.
That's a very interesting thing about the writing of this film. George Lucas wrote like a ton of stuff before he like started writing the script for this movie.
Yeah.
So he's just had a ton of background material and stuff like that. And then he realized that like if he was gonna make it, it's gonna have to be more than one movie.
Sure.
Definitely, for sure. So he took like the first act and cut that into a movie, and the second act and cut that into a movie. third
Okay,
act,
so
cut that
he
into a
already
But-
knew about the familial
Well,
relations
no,
before he made this movie.
because he had all of this information, but a lot of it was different than what we know of as
Sure.
the movies
Mm.
now. So he made this first movie, locked that in, and then by the time they got to the second movie, he had to redo a bunch of stuff to make it bigger and better than the first movie, which flew high above all expectations.
I think the second
That
one
is
the
is
second
my
one
favorite.
is the
the
best.
second one is my
Return
favorite.
of the Jedi.
No, that's the third one.
Is that the one where
The Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back.
where
I
Luke
do-
becomes the baby of a oversized llama?
Yes,
Or
when
llama?
he hides in the belly.
Oh, the last one's with the Ewoks.
That's Return of the Jedi.
Oh,
That's
okay.
your favorite.
That's my favorite one.
Yes.
That is mine. least favorite, but since we're not talking about 2 or 3, let's get back to the one.
I was getting confused about the order. That was a good song.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you. I worked on it.
so in this one, it was supposed to be like the first one, episode 1 or whatever. But then by the time I think it might have been right around episode 5 was coming out, he decided to name it episode 5 and then episode 6, and that the one before was episode 4. And then people were like, wait.
Oh, so
what?
he did that when the
This is-
second one came out?
I believe, or the second one or the third one. It wasn't upon release of the first one.
Because George Lucas is a genius. He reeled you in and was like,
Yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing about this movie for me, is that every time I watch it, I just want to watch more Star Wars.
Oh, sure.
Like,
Yeah,
that's
totally.
all that it makes me want to do. I'm like, I liked all of that, and I want more of it.
But you know what's really cool is that you can watch this movie and it's 100% a standalone.
Yes.
Because they gave you everything you needed to start the movie. You don't need to watch anything. It wasn't made to watch anything
Right.
beforehand.
No.
Yeah.
And you don't really have to watch more to feel like, because you know how, oh my God, I like but also hate, like Harry Potter part 7 and 8, or which it's 2 parts. you know
Part
what I
8,
mean?
part 1.
Yeah. And
part
it's
7,
like-
part 1.
Stop. Just, I mean, I realize there's a lot of material, but like
Yeah.
the end of one movie feels like,
Right.
cliffhanger. Right? This movie does not feel like that at all.
No.
It doesn't even hint towards like there's going to be
It
more.
is,
Right.
it is a standalone. And as a standalone, if I think of it as just a standalone and all I know about the current characters is all I know about them, I don't know that they're going to grow, I don't know anything,
You don't know where they came from.
then by far Han Solo is the best character.
Okay, let's do best character.
Oh, okay.
If I'm just treating this movie as a standalone, Luke is the most annoying person in the world.
True.
Han Solo is the best character, and Leia is she kind of be a little bit. But I like her.
You know you're not supposed to say that.
I know.
She's a sass pot.
She's a sass pot
She's
for
full of
sure.
sass.
Luke is so annoying.
He is
Actually,
very.
Luke is so annoying, right?
favorite character C3 P0.
Yeah, we knew that was coming.
Why do you like 3 PCCO?
He's the only one with common sense.
He's a droid.
He's the only one with common sense.
I think Emily said when we were watching it, of course you like him. He's a rule follower.
Yeah.
And
He's
Louis
definitely
is
a rule follower. 3PO.
No, Han Solo, hands
So am I
down.
R2D2?
There's a little man in there.
Oh my God.
Oh, yes.
Remember I
Talk
told
about
Emily that?
That kind of freaked
Yeah,
me
so
out.
fun fact, if you don't know this, but in the first 3 Star Wars movies, R2D2 was not just a like robot that they built for the movie. He was a prop. And someone piloted him. Kenny Baker was an actor in the films, and he played R2D2. He was
That's
inside,
so crazy.
driving him around, moving his head.
Didn't
hitting
I had to
buttons.
pause the movie and be like, "There's a person in
Yes.
there."
That kind of creeps me out because.
Well,
Not
I
creeps
did-
me out, but like
I think when we were,
I can't think about him anything
Yeah.
but a droid.
but I also
yeah.
think like when I first watched these movies with Andre, I don't think I knew that. I don't think I knew that there was an actor in C-3PO until it was like the Force Awakens premiere and they had a picture of the actor and it said like
Oh.
C-3PO and I was like, wait, what? Like I didn't know that was a person either. I just thought it was a robot, but that's good because then it was very convincing.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
very convincing. Like
very
it's
true.
so well done that they all seem like
That I just
robots.
a
didn't
robot.
even notice. I was like, well, that's a robot. You know, it's fine.
And
And
like
I thought
they're
that
not called
somebody
robots.
just
They're
like
droids.
they're droids, but I just thought it was a voice actor, like
Yeah.
I
over
mean,
the droid.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which I know they're droids, but I like that in no way are they referenced to as
As
robots.
No,
Yeah.
they're droids.
I like that.
That's true. Did they say robot at any point?
I don't think
I
they
don't
say
think so.
robot.
Scanning Star Wars database.
Oh. Anyways, I still think Han Solo is the best. Number 1, it's Harrison Ford. Number 2, Han Solo is the best character in the Star Wars universe for these first 3 movies because he had the most growth in this movie. He was a
I don't think he had any growth. I think
no,
Well-
he came
decided-
back.
He came back. Yeah, he had some growth.
He got a medal.
No, he wanted.
At first,
the
he was
girl.
like, at
Of
first he
course
was
he
in it for
did.
the money.
yeah,
I like when he tries to piss Luke off on purpose. It's funny. I
yeah,
like
that is funny.
because Luke is so annoying.
He's the funniest character, and he wasn't almost not in this movie, but Harrison Ford was not supposed to even audition for Star Wars. He because he had been in American Graffiti and George Lucas wanted to use unknowns, he forbid him from auditioning. But
Really?
but after a certain point, while they were casting, he had Harrison Ford sit in and read lines with the other actors. So he was playing Han Solo against all these other people over and over and over again. And so George Lucas just watched him like become Han Solo over a couple of weeks. And so he was like, okay, you're the one.
But why did George Lucas wanted everybody to be unknown?
Not everybody, but he wanted the main three to be mostly unknowns.
Which
Because
I
that's how he
appreciate.
casts
Which
his
it
movies.
is, right? Like that was their first movies.
Yeah, I mean,
Besides Han Solo?
Mark Hamill had been on TV, and Carrie Fisher
I mean, she's
is the daughter of an actress and
Yeah.
a producer, I think.
but she hadn't been in anything yet.
She hadn't been in anything big, no. So then this movie propelled all three of them to ultra mega stardom.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Harrison Ford. Oh my gosh, he's
Yeah.
in so many things.
The best thing about the documentary is that he goes, oh, when I found out that it was a success, I went like this, and he like rubs his hands together. He's like, yes, now I get to go to work. Now the success of this has led me so that I can go out there and work as an actor.
Which is true
It's
because
true.
it's not even necessarily an actor's fault. Like, we've seen terrible movies where the actor is good, but they're probably not going to get another job because that movie wasn't that great. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I like me some Harrison. Who do you think is the best character out of this movie? If it's a standalone and you know nothing about their growth. Don't say Luke.
Okay, so
He's gonna say Luke.
as a kid, it's 100% Luke. Luke is definitely.
I don't remember him
the
being
one.
annoying.
Because you
And
want to
then
be him.
Right. Yes, exactly. I didn't remember him being annoying because I was him.
Yes.
I was like, somebody's coming to take me away, and I get a cool laser sword, and I get to push stuff with my mind, and I get to blow up a gigantic intergalactic battle station.
Sounds pretty accurate.
And
Go ahead.
Yeah.
and it's awesome. But upon this viewing of us watching it, you're right. He is pretty whiny.
Gosh,
as
when
a-
he's
as a
on
kid.
Tatooine and he's just like, oh my.
I wanted to go to Tashi Station to get some power converters.
Yeah, that,
All right.
exactly that.
Goodness gracious. Calm down. But to be fair, he's supposed to be
That was so perfect.
he's supposed to
was
be a
really good.
20-year-old that has been on his uncle's farm for too long, and he's like,
Yeah.
I'm ready to become a man now, and I need more to do than farm moisture. This is awful.
Okay, I didn't know they farmed moisture
They're moisture
until you said
farmers.
something this time.
Mhm.
I thought they farmed like sand,
Yeah.
like corn or something. I don't know.
And why does he need him to farm moisture?
Because it's a desert
Because
planet.
Tatooine
No,
is
but
dry.
It's dry.
It's moisture.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of it. You gotta
They
collect
gotta harvest it.
You gotta get it up.
What I'm saying is, it's not like 30,000 pounds of corn husks.
He needs help.
Yeah, I don't know what the actual like fields, the moisture fields are like, but I guess he needs help working them. Can't do it with just the droids. But
Damn,
it doesn't matter for
Uncle
too
Owen.
long because Owen and Baru get burned to a crisp. Pretty.
They get invited to a
Pretty cool.
barbecue.
Luke. Yeah, that was kind of gross, dude.
Yeah, they're roasted bodies out on the ground there. It
Luke.
was pretty toasty. So that being said, with Luke as being as whiny as he is, as he's becoming the man who he will eventually will become, I will say that upon this viewing, my favorite character is Darth Vader.
Okay, good.
He's-
Because I was gonna say Darth Vader.
He's the dude. He's the man.
Okay, so can I?
Okay.
He's the chosen one.
So before you keep going, I'm gonna say Darth Vader too.
Okay.
And as a kid, I thought he was so scary.
Dude, he is. If
Okay.
you meet him in real life, he's
I have,
freaky.
and I
Oh.
almost cried. Like,
Yeah.
well, Kylo Ren probably scared me a little more,
Oh, yeah.
but Darth
Because
Vader.
he's got that creep factor.
Yes,
Jeez.
because he's extra creepy. Like Darth kind of
Yeah.
just stands there and like stares at you, but Kylo kind of gets all up in your grill. Like,
Yeah.
back up, Josh.
Josh.
Groban. Anywho, Darth Vader. And again, this was you had to say it, and then I was like, dude, yes. So we're watching the movie, and actually, Michelle, I think you said. Actually, I don't know who said it, but someone was like, he's pretty much the muscle on.
Andre.
the ship.
I think Luis said
I think
it.
Luis said
Yeah,
it
it was
first.
Luis.
Like, he's pretty much the captain's
He's not.
like.
He's not the leader.
No, and in my brain, Darth Vader was always like head honcho,
Top
and
dog.
all be all.
He's not. It's that one dude.
He's got a couple of bosses.
Yeah, like he is not he is not the top of the food chain.
Right.
So that actually makes me like him more
Mhm.
because now that already adds like all that depth to his character that
Yeah.
for some reason I just thought he was like an untouchable bad guy,
Mhm.
but he really isn't. He's just doing their quote unquote evil bidding, but I
Right.
like that he has all of this tie to the Force that everyone thinks is mumbo jumbo, but he's like,
That
let me
hocus
show you.
pocus out of here, and he's like, "I'll choke you to death."
How about that?
How about
I
that?
will just show you.
How about that for
how I
mumbo
kill you.
jumbo, dude?
Yeah.
Ah.
Beautiful.
I do like Darth Vader a lot.
Beautiful. It
When-
was so good.
We were watching it, and when he first shows up on screen, he like appears out of like the smoky fog, and Addie is sitting right next to me on the couch. She goes, "Oh no, scary!"
I know she's like hiding on
"Oh,
Andre.
scary!"
It was
I was
so
like, "Yeah, he's the
cute.
bad guy." She's like, "He's the bad guy."
And then every time he came on screen, she was like, "Bad guy,
Bad guy.
bad guy."
She was 100% snuggling into Andre's shoulder from that moment on.
It was so cute.
so done.
It was amazing. Yeah, the power of the dark side, right there.
right there.
Oh no, scary.
You know the other thing that's really cool about him, and I don't remember this from previous viewings, is we've talked about the like cinematography and stuff, but that first scene when you see him walk in through the smoke, everything in that space ship,
Yeah,
the space
in the
station,
ship.
whatever,
Mhm.
is so white.
It's bright white.
Super white.
The
not
walls are
just-
white, the floor is white, the ceiling is white, all the stormtroopers are white.
And it's just so bright. And then he walks in and he's just all black.
He's a shadow.
It's just it's fantastically shot in
Yeah.
a way that just kind of like hurts your eyes for a second, which makes it kind of all the more scary.
Yeah.
Everybody looks good in all black, man.
And if you
Scary.
look at him, his outfit, it's kind of modeled after like a samurai, like a dark samurai warrior.
Yeah.
He's got like the belt and the front tails. You know those things?
Coattails?
You know, you got coattails on the back, but he got them in the front. It's like leg.
I wish you guys could see Andre.
It's like
doing
leg
front.
sleeves. It's
Leg sleeves?
It's front tails.
A cape?
He's got that, and he's got the cape, and then even the thing on his chest, his like control unit
His
or whatever.
breastplate.
Yeah, it kind of just looks like a separating.
I really love what
I
you're
wish
doing
I
with
could
your hands
describe
right now.
clothes better. Look up a picture of a samurai and then look up a picture of Darth Vader. Okay, you got it. There, boom.
Bam, boom. Bam, boom.
I'm dying.
And yeah, so George Lucas, he really pulled from all kinds of stuff that he used to like to watch. He liked to watch like war movies and adventure movies and space movies and samurai movies and westerns, and he like combined all of those elements to
Yeah.
make
This is
Star
totally
Wars.
a space western.
Luis said
Yeah.
there was a western shootout or a shootout.
a western style shootout.
A Mexican standoff.
Which a Mexican standoff is.
It's like-
Aren't those
it's
from
like a western.
westerns?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Now, there is one character we didn't mention that we probably should.
Well,
Chewbacca.
I'm assuming a lot, but
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Oh,
I was talking about Obi-Wan.
Oh,
Oh, or Leia, too.
I thought we were talking about Leia.
Let's talk about them both then.
But Obi-Wan, yeah. This is the first time we've ever seen him, and it's the oldest we've ever seen him.
That's true.
He's a Jedi who's been hanging out on a planet for 20 some odd years,
By himself.
and people around think of him as a crazy old hermit who's
and he's pretty much a refugee, correct? Like,
yeah.
but we get that from
Yeah.
the storyline here.
Mm-hmm.
We get that,
Yes,
don't
yes,
we?
yes. He fought in the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
and
he's a
then-
loner.
And then the Empire happened, and I had to come here
Yeah.
to hide out.
Yeah,
Yes,
and he
yes, we
straight
get
up
that from this
tells
movie.
Luke everything. He's like, yeah, so this is
He
how-
doesn't tell him everything.
Well, he didn't technically lie.
No.
Your father was a Jedi.
And we didn't know that.
We fought in the Clone Wars. and
That's
he
true.
was
That's true.
Killed by Darth Vader,
That's true.
who was also an apprentice of mine that turned to the dark side.
It's all true.
He's
All
lying
true.
by omission, but okay.
From a certain point of view, it's true.
I can't stand the way he talks. You sound exactly like him right there. Oh my god. Stop. That was perfect.
He
Luke.
sounded very like.
Use the force.
And his demeanor was very British.
Yes. So Alec
that
He
Guinness.
sounds like a
British?
beetle.
Alec Guinness. He was.
Isn't he British?
He's the guy who won the Oscar for the bridge on River Kwai. Is that what that movie is called?
The what?
You've never heard
Bridge
of
to
that?
Terabithia?
That's
No.
what I heard.
That's what I was.
That's exactly what I heard.
The bridge.
PETA on a bridge.
on River Kwai.
Was his name PETA?
Yes.
His name was PETA?
It's an old famous movie from the 50s. But he won an Oscar for it, so he's the most like famous person in this movie. He's the big name that they got for Star Wars, basically. So he brought a lot of gravitas.
Oh, I see.
See, I almost felt like Leia would have been that name because of her mom.
Yeah, but nobody knew her. She hadn't been in anything.
That's true.
Yet. You know, I mean, just because you got a famous mom does not mean that you're going to be good. And it's interesting because Leia in this movie, she's pretty different than she is in the next two movies.
Yeah.
And it's just because
she just gets more.
No, she gets more sassy, I think, in the later movies.
More sassy, but more BA.
But also, she's like kind of doing up the British dignitary in this one more.
A diplomat.
She's like, Grand Moff Tarkin, I thought I smelled your foul stench as I walked in the room. And it's like, okay. I guess you could talk like that.
I guess that's why she seems more sassy to me. Because she's more scrappy in the other ones.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I see
like
the,
this
I see
is
the difference.
like
she'll come at you with her words for sure.
Yeah, but she's like trying to, like you said, trying to still kind of like be uppity.
Yeah.
Without being like outright like, all right, I'm gonna kick your butt.
All right, well,
now.
I'm just gonna shoot you all.
Yeah.
Which she does later.
Yes.
I think in this movie, she's dealing with an internal struggle. Like, she's like one of the leaders of this rebellion, right? Like her father is, and so then she is by default like on these missions and things. She's trying to like be this warrior princess almost. Like, think about it, saving her own batootie.
I mean, for
but
the
then
first
she
half of
also
this
sees
movie,
her entire planet explode.
Right.
And she feels like it's her fault. So she's kind of like going through all these different things, like learning about this Star Wars universe, and it's not pretty. Like, I know she knows it's not pretty, but it was really not pretty when her whole Alderaan exploded.
Yeah. She's really going through it. For the first half of this movie, she's a captive basically the whole time.
Getting tortured big
time. Getting tortured with the torture droid. And then
that thing is terrifying.
That was probably the scariest thing I saw in the entire movie.
It's got pokies and stabbies and knifeys.
And she got pokey, stabby, and knifey.
Yeah, it was bad. And then she has to watch her planet blow up, and then she gets rescued by these two adults, and their big
She's
furry
literally
friend.
like, you guys, let's get a way out, shoot this down, get in the trash compactor, because y'all ain't doing nothing.
Someone has to save our skins, she says. And
yes.
it's her.
Let's talk about the trash compactor, because I think...
What a good scene.
I think that's definitely a scene I saw as a kid. So my dad, Star
Me
Wars
too.
comes on, like, just TV.
It would come on
you
TNT.
know, like
Whoever had
TNT,
licenses
thank
to
you.
it
No,
at
it's
the time.
TNT.
Mm-hmm.
My dad growing up would always watch movies on TNT. And I would just be, playing toys or doing whatever. But it would be on in the background. So if he was watching Star Wars, I wasn't really watching it until there was like, oh, okay, I remember that. Like, I remember episode 1, the pod races, seeing that on TV, and I remember the trash compactor. And those are the only two things I remember as a kid. So this scene is still terrifying to me, though. Absolutely terrifying.
It's scary because, first of all, they're in there, and it's like, okay, we got away from the stormtroopers, and now we're in trash. It's like, okay, gross. Number one. Number two, there's living things in here, and they're slithering around, and they're gross. And oops, Luke is taken away by the slithering things.
For a long time.
For a long time, he is underneath the water, and it's scary. And then Luke comes up, and only to have the walls start closing in on them. And then we get cutting interludes to the two droids bumbling through saving them. C-3PO! 3PO!
God,
he cracks me up and he's like, oh, they've done it. They're dying. They sound like they're dying.
Oh, yeah, right after he rescues them.
I
they're
just
celebrating.
can't Mark Hamill. Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah. He's got the... He's really got the whiny voice down. It's
for sure.
It's in there,
You have to wonder, like, how much did they want him to play that up, though?
Well,
because he is supposed to juxtapose Han Solo.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Because Han
exactly.
Solo
They're definitely
is cool
opposites.
Mm-hmm.
all
He's the cool
time.
fly boy, and Luke is the young little not a man yet.
Yeah.
But getting kissed on the cheek twice by Leia. Hey.
But that makes you wonder, like, how much did they have him play that up? Because I'll tell you this has nothing to do with anything, but you'll know when I'm done with the story.
Mm-hmm.
I remember listening to this interview with Justin Timberlake, okay? And it was about him during his time in NSYNC, because he was always the young, the person, you know, in the group, and they made him be as young as possible all the time. Like they wanted him to upplay the fact that he was the
Makes
baby.
sense.
So I wonder like how much. Like, they always made him be nasally.
Right.
Like, they made him sing super nasally and all that kind of stuff and speak in a more young way. So I wonder if that was part of the thing, just to kind of juxtapose their character.
Maybe.
Well, I will say that if that was a conscious decision, which it very well might have been, that it was all Mark Hamill's idea. Because the way that George Lucas directed was not in favor of actors. He directed on a technical level. He wanted to make sure everything looked cool, and he wrote the story. So he was like, these are the words that are going to be said, and that's that. You know, so that when the actors are going in, he's not really giving them any direction. The famous joke about his directing style is that he just, after every take, he just goes, okay, do it again, but faster and more intense. Just that's it. That's his only like line reading. You know.
So it's not like I need you to be more intense here or something.
It's not
or like I need you to
feel what's the force or whatever.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
he's
But maybe
he's
like-
not giving them a lot of direction.
But maybe like Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill were like, we've got to, you know, do this. And
Right,
do that.
exactly. Yes, between each other and themselves, that absolutely that they're where all the acting power is coming from in this.
I
movie.
will say
all the
though
acting
that
choices.
they all have like the perfect look for their subjective characters. Like that sounds so weird, but
They're all
like
like played the type.
Princess Leia, like that's Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Like that's what she looks like. That's it. So it'd be another thing, like if somebody did like a Star Wars play, I'd be like, no, you don't look like Harrison
You're not
Ford.
Leia.
Like you don't. That's their looks are so iconic.
Right.
You know, the one
They
thing
are
that's
them.
really interesting to me, which I realize that you can't get like super depth into all of these characters and all of these worlds right off the bat, but Chewbacca really is non-existent in this movie.
Yeah, he's not in it a ton.
I mean,
He's
he's
there.
like there, like in
But he's not like addressed that much.
right. He's just kind of standing there.
He's
Really, his
there
only
and he's
big-
cool. He's got a
yeah.
big gun and
His big scene is like, let the Wookiee win.
yeah, when he's playing
Yeah.
chess
Yeah.
and he puts his arms behind his head. That was hilarious.
Which is so funny because in the most recent episodes, like Chewbacca is like a huge
Yeah,
character. Like he's always there.
He has
and
become a legacy character for sure. And
doesn't Leia call him
and
a
he is
big furry
respected.
oaf?
She said, "Get this walking carpet away from me," which is
Which is
Which is
funny
pretty
because they
funny.
love each other now. See, I always think in like if
Yeah.
it's like a quote like that where I'm like, haha, yeah, but like 20 years from now, y'all are besties.
and it's
You know, like that's how I think when I watch movies.
Yeah.
the what Chewbacca is really interesting.
He's
like
a-
he's a co-pilot,
A
he's a best friend, and he's also like kind of a pet. Like at one point, Han he scratches behind his ears or whatever. He like pets him on the head.
Weird.
They're like
That's
I
a
think
little intimate there,
I think
bro.
it's when the tractor beam pulls the Millennium Falcon into the Death Star, and they're like hiding in the things, and they're about to get out, and he just gives a little scratch on the head.
Too much.
You're okay, buddy.
Too much, bro.
It's like if Dougie became anthropomorphic all of a sudden. He
Well-
was just walking around and barking
Yeah.
at me.
Dougie loves Chewbacca. It's his
Yeah.
favorite character.
We'd be like running missions, and then I'd give him a little pet on the head.
The sun's getting real low, Dougie.
Oh my gosh.
Sun's getting low. Sun's getting
We almost
low.
renamed Dougie Chewbacca when we got him.
That's true. And
But-
Chewbacca is his favorite toy. He's got a lot of Chewbacca.
All I have to tell him, go get your Chewbacca, and he goes and gets it. He loves it so much that we bought like 5 of them, and he's gone over them the course of a couple years.
He likes destroying
Yeah.
Chewbacca. Anyway, what else?
Side note.
Let's talk about the additions to the movie from the original and the differences and the
Okay.
updates and things, because you know much more than I think the
CGI.
So this movie came out in 1977.
Uh-huh.
And in 1977, as I said, he created the special effects department of Industrial Light and Magic, and they created a ton of never-before-seen styles of special effects to put in this movie. All the space battles are filmed like practically with miniatures and blue screens,
Which is so cool.
and there's some claymation, I think, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on to make it look real. And so that's George Lucas's like real genius is special effects and making things look good on film.
And can I say something real fast? Now, this is gonna again not have anything to do with Star Wars, but it just brings in. I appreciate things now so much more done pre-CGI
Practically.
because practical.
Mhm.
Thank you. Because It was so much harder and so much more imaginative.
Yeah.
Because you had to be. You didn't have the choice.
And
Right.
honestly, I think it looks better. Like when the banthas, like those look real. But then when they add in the CG characters, I was like, no, I'd rather
Well,
have something
yeah.
that looks like the bantha.
Well, and for example, again, we watch Harry Potter and we watch Lord of the Rings at Christmas time, and we watched The Hobbit, and then we watched all the Lord of the Rings, and the Lord of the Rings looks better in many parts because it's done practically.
It's less CGI.
And then in The Hobbit, all of the armies are CGI, and it's like, well, I mean, it's cool, I guess, but it's also very obviously computer.
Right.
And I appreciate the fact that when you watch this movie, you're like, wow, that is, I mean, it's Muppety maybe, but it's large and done realistic.
Right. Like the amount of just droids in this movie, the variety and the sheer number of all of them. Like they created all of those. They built them. They sculpted them. They did whatever they had to do. They made them move and talk and walk around and make noises and stuff like that. It's a crazy amount of ingenuity that they did. And I think they made this movie in like 2 years. And also it was like a disaster the whole time. They I think when he set up Industrial Light and Magic to start doing the special effects, they created the company, and then after like a year, they had shot one thing. And that's because in that entire time, they were creating gizmos and making models and creating computers to be able to move the models and all kinds of stuff just to even begin doing the work on this movie.
Can you imagine how frustrating that would be? Maybe
It's
not.
nuts.
Maybe not for like George Lucas, who is thinking like this is my creative genius at work.
But
But
for all
like
the
if
dudes.
I was just like an actor or something, I would be like, shoot me now.
Where is the stuff? Yeah, it's nuts. It's long production cycle on this movie. So
additions.
all this was made in 1977, and then in 1999, before the prequels came out, George Lucas remastered and remade and added in scenes for the special editions of Star Wars. And he did it for all three movies, and this one, I think, is the most egregious with its additions because it's the oldest one. So
Sure.
he wanted to. It's the one that needed the most updating, I suppose. So he added in a lot of 1999 CGI, which does not age as well as the practical stuff that was in the original movie. You know, like watching it now, like Michelle said, it's like between the dewbacks and the banthas, it's like, please just give me more banthas. Get rid of these
Yeah.
lizard things.
I
in
do
the
not
desert.
mind if they're all just hanging out on one side of the screen. Let it be. It's
Right.
cool. Like, we don't need all of this random CGI stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting additions. But then the added scenes are what's really interesting. So there's a scene in the beginning where they're in Mos Eisley, and Han is talking to a bounty hunter named Greedo, and Greedo is telling him like, "Hey, Jabba the Hutt, the gangster, he you owe him money and you didn't pay up, so it's time to take you in. I'm taking you in." And Han's like, "I don't think so, dude. That's not what's gonna happen." And in the original movie, Greedo looks like he's getting ready to pounce on Han, and Han, before anything can happen, pulls out his blaster and shoots Greedo dead, right? And that's the scene, and then it moves on. And in the special edition, they make it so that it appears that Greedo shoots Han, and then Han dodges Greedo's blast
it was
and
so-
shoots Greedo, so that he's
so
not
weird.
like the attacker in the situation. But you
Just
know,
leave it.
but
Let him attack.
that's the thing, and why it's such a big deal is because
Like the Han shot first thing.
yes, the Han shot first is because people grew up on Han being the guy who shot first.
Yeah.
And then in 1999, he tried to present it as like, nah, Han wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's what Han would do.
But he would.
And
And
he would,
did.
yes.
So
So it's a change that
He
not
would.
a lot of people like. And then he updated it again to add in McClunky, which if you watch this on Disney Plus, you saw that is a brand new addition from like 2019 that George got to do before he released it to Disney Plus.
But why?
I'm not sure at all.
McClunky.
McClunky. He says that right before he shoots Han, and it's like, what is happening?
It's like giving him like an insult, and that's why Han shoots
Yeah,
him.
I guess so. It's an added layer on why Han would possibly shoot this terrible, terrible man.
Which is hilarious because if you, I made Andre and Luis like rewind it a couple times because if you watch Han now, it looks very silly because he's leaning like right in the center, he's sitting in the center of the booth, and then Greedo shoots, and then he's like off to the left, and then he pulls back center.
His head
It
like
looks so
magically
bad.
moves in
Hey,
a
that
split
was pretty
second
good, babe.
to avoid a
you
blaster
look exactly
bolt.
like him,
and it's
bad.
very weird looking. And then there's another scene shortly after that where Han confronts Jabba the Hutt. He goes and talks to him, and Jabba's like, rah, 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 Han Solo, blah, 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 blah. But in the original movie, that wasn't there at all.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see Jabba the Hutt until Return of the Jedi.
Wasn't that original scene, and that's the one I was going to mention that I really liked, wasn't the original scene just them getting blasted out of that little parking lot?
Yeah. So that scene is it never happens, but in that same area, yeah, they're all boarding the Millennium Falcon, Han, Luke, Obi-Wan, and Chewie or whatever. They're all getting on, and then the stormtroopers show up and start shooting at them. And that's all that happens. You don't
And
see
that was
this
the original one.
pre-scene where Han goes there first and talks to Jabba the Hutt. And also Boba Fett is there, and Boba Fett doesn't show up originally until Empire Strikes Back.
I like how Boba Fett looks straight into the camera as he's turning in that same scene, like, I'll be seeing you.
Check this
I know,
out.
like, I'm here, y'all.
I'll be there soon.
Hey.
Yeah, so I think that's stuff that they had shot afterwards, to specifically so George could add it in later. Oh my goodness, there's a baby falling asleep to us talking on the podcast.
Oh.
It's really cute.
Comment down below if this.
It's really
if
cute
that's
when
you
babies
too.
do that.
if you're falling
if we,
asleep
if
in
we're
the
putting you to
podcast.
sleep.
Oh,
Wake
she's
up and
so
make a comment.
sleepy. Oh,
Um,
so cute.
Yeah, so there's a few other CGI shots that are added in, like some like X-wings flying in, just a couple of small shots like that.
Those ones aren't as bad because
Right.
I think it's against the black background of space. Those ones aren't as like whoa.
yeah, those
but
one looks much nicer.
when they're in the sand.
Yeah, or
like-
just Jabba the Hutt in general.
Oh yeah, Jabba was very.
Especially compared to seeing like the real Jabba in Return of the Jedi, and it's
He
like,
was
what
like-
is this?
He kind of looked like Flubber.
Yeah,
Like he
it's
was
like real foamy.
Yeah, I
you
didn't
know,
like it.
It doesn't.
So that was 1999 too.
Yes,
Okay.
the CGI Jabba.
The one cool thing about that scene, though, I mean, again, the foresight. This man is pretty amazing. For him to have shot that entire scene
Yeah.
with Han Solo in the 70s, kept the footage for the exact reason
Mm-hmm.
that he then did 20 years later.
Yeah.
That's kind of
I'm
amazing.
gonna have Jabba slithering around at some point.
Yeah,
It's
like
gonna happen.
Like I'm gonna send out another edition, and when we have it, this is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
It's pretty crazy.
Because when you were telling me that, and I was like, I've never seen this scene, and we're watching it, I kind of was thinking to myself, how did they make Han look so perfectly young without CGIing his
Right.
face?
'Cause I think they shot it like right before or right after Return of the Jedi when they had mocked up
yeah,
what Jabba was gonna look like and what he was gonna
That's
be.
it's just amazing.
It's wild. It's wild. He's like, I'm gonna make these again, or I'm gonna keep working on these forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Or at least long enough to be able to do redo this piece.
Right.
Like that's pretty
exactly.
amazing.
Yeah.
You have to have some complete faith in your thing.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Another thing that you were sharing with us that I thought was really interesting was his use of just everything and anything, alien wise and like
Oh, yeah.
costuming wise, because especially
I think you'd mentioned that pretty much the reason why a lot of those Cantina peeps looked like they were pulled out of left and right is because he was getting like costumes and stuff from like
Yeah.
movies that have failed.
He's literally getting as many like handouts and stuff as he possibly could. I think the budget on this movie was $8 million. Like that's what it was initially targeted as, and then I think he like went over budget, it's like $12 million or something like that. And the entire time he is out of money because
I can't
of the
imagine.
amount of stuff that he had to create to get this going. So he's taking as many shortcuts as he possibly can. So he had a bunch of great designers and costume makers and stuff like that, but he also took costumes off of like backlots from his friends because his friends is like Steven Spielberg and Francis Ford Coppola and stuff like that.
I love
so they threw over a Dracula costume and a devil costume and an alien costume and an astronaut costume, and then
Because there's literally
Aliens wearing
astronauts.
astronaut
Like,
costumes.
that
yes,
was
exactly.
so
So they
funny.
just piece stuff together. They're just pulling stuff and putting it in other places and creating all of
But I
these
like it.
crazy iconic aliens now.
But this is like the only scene like this. I think in the rest of the Star Wars movie, it's kind of more like set characters. You know,
Yeah.
you don't just see a whole place full of the weirdest creatures you've ever absolutely seen this practically done.
Well, yes, in all of the other instances where there's like groups of aliens, I think that they're more
Like CG.
Well, no, not so much that. It's just they're more in theme.
Mhm.
Right.
Like they're
all
in-
one,
Yeah, this is
one
like very
thing.
eclectic.
yes.
Yeah.
But I
that
love
makes
it.
interesting.
It's the melting pot.
And I
down
like
in
those
Mos
little
Eisley.
aliens that are doing the do 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 do
The
do.
band guys. I don't know what they're called.
That they're, what did you call them? Dracula fingers, Emily?
They have Dracula fingers for sure. It's like, do you remember when you were a kid and you got those like fake fingers that had
Yeah.
the nails on them?
Yeah,
That's exactly what it
totally.
looks like they're wearing.
Totally.
I think there is I'm not sure if it's a book or a comic, but it's called Tales from the Cantina. And so it's kind of just like an anthology where it goes around and you get to like meet a bunch of the characters.
That's super
Tales
funny.
from the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Yes, it was a book. It came out in 1995. So that's another thing is that before the prequels got made and before Disney bought them, Star Wars had a ton of
Cartoon, like
extra content.
comics,
There
yeah?
was comics and books. Those were like the big main things. But there were also a couple of cartoon shows and video games and all kinds of other extra material that all fed into the Star Wars canon and lore.
Which is
this is one of
crazy.
them. So like every face basically that you've ever seen in Star Wars has a name, a last name, a backstory, a planet they're from.
Oh my gosh, didn't you say that
all
one
of
guy
that.
was named Porkins?
Yeah, Porkins. Yeah, y'all know Porkins. I just said Porkins and you pictured him. It's Porkins. He's the X-wing pilot. Yeah, and he has a whole sordid history with the rebels and stuff too.
It's funny that you say that because I went over to one of my friends' houses who has kids around our kids' age the other day, and they have like a Star Wars anthology type book, and she was going through it and like showing me it, and I was like, I do not know who any of these are. She's like, you know who Darth Vader is? I'm like, yeah, I know who Darth Vader is, but I don't know who freaking.
You don't know who Jack Tono Porkins?
No, no.
The only thing I know is that it's one of those because he wears orange stuff and a helmet too, but he's like the leader,
Orange
but it's
stuff
like a
and a
creature.
He's a rebel pilot,
Yeah,
but
he's like a creature.
He's a creature.
But he might not be a pilot, like he's always talking to Leia, like "Meow, meow, 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 meow."
Yeah,
are
he
you
has,
talking
like,
about
the
Admiral Akbar?
Yeah, Admiral
Yeah,
Akbar.
he's like
Yeah.
a fish person.
That's the only.
Yeah, he looks
that's
like
the
one of
only,
those
like,
minnows from SpongeBob.
Yeah,
Yes.
but that's the only like random character I would say I
Yeah.
know.
Let me see what his species is. Oh wait, he's a calamari.
He's
Calamari.
a fish. Yum.
Yeah, he's Mon Calamari. That's what.
Shut up,
That's
it's
what
really
his
called
species
Yeah,
is.
that
Yes.
one. Show
Mhm.
Emily.
Yes.
Oh no, I
Akbar.
knew exactly who you were talking about.
But that's the only
hilarious.
like random creature that I feel like I like.
It's a
know.
trap.
It's a trap.
That's actually from the next movie. I don't think Admiral Akbar is in this movie.
No.
he
I
wasn't.
believe so. No. But yeah, there's lots of dudes like that. Like, look at this is Admiral Akbar's Wikipedia page. It's
Oh my
it's
god.
very long.
Andre has literally swiped like 8 times.
It was
on
so
his
long.
iPad.
There's a long
Stop.
there's a long
The
scroll.
Wikipedia page is longer than Will Smith.
Yeah.
He's only been in Miami, okay?
Exactly.
Pursuit
To
of happiness, that's
Miami.
it.
He
But
hasn't
this
been to
dude,
the-
he's been in
to
a
the
whole
stars.
universe.
Lots of years. Oh, I was gonna ask you, and I feel like we'll touch on this, but like, if he made all of the practical effects and the robots and everything, like, how much money did he have to make this movie? Because that seems like it'd be a lot of money.
Well, that's
Well,
he
went
was
over
8
12
to
minutes.
$12 million.
12 minutes.
Yeah.
12 minutes.
Yeah. So for this movie, he had made a deal with Fox that he would keep the rights to produce sequels, and that Fox wouldn't own the sequels. So Fox would own this one, but they wouldn't own the sequels if it was a success. So he would be able to make them without their approval or anything like that. I believe that was the deal. And then for the next couple of movies, he made a much better deal. But in doing that, he was able to by the seat of his pants make this movie, and then also like retain merchandising rights and all kinds of stuff that most studios in Hollywood would not have gone for with anybody else. But he was really fighting for his own movie to be able to make it and not have to be under the pressure of the studio system where they'll be giving him notes and changing the movie at the last minute and stuff like that had happened to him before.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But then why did he sell it years ago later?
That's a good question, and I don't
Didn't he
know.
sell it for cheap?
I mean, not cheap. It's not like I could afford it. It was $4 billion. But
For Lucasfilms, right? That Disney
yes,
bought
for
Lucasfilm?
when Disney bought Lucasfilm, they bought it for $4.4 billion, which is like a lot of money. But just the movies alone have made, I think, at this point, I don't know if I'm up to date on my calculations or whatever, but I think it's made like $6 billion. The just from the new movies that have come out.
That's just the
since
new
since
one?
Disney has bought them. Yes.
Jeez.
Over the course of Star Wars history, between movies, comic books, books, merchandise, I think
merchandise is insane.
it comes out to more than like $50 billion. It's a $50 billion franchise. It makes
they sell
so
those
much money.
lightsabers for $200,
Dude,
man.
the merch alone, when I read an article about it, it said that merch from 77 to the present, whenever the article was written, I think which was a few years ago, it was like $20 billion in merch. In just the merch. And most of that is like toys. There's
Sure,
for
sure.
A lot of toys.
That's crazy.
So Disney is really getting their money's worth off of Star Wars.
And
Marvel.
This it makes me. I can imagine that. I mean, the 70s is a little bit different, but think about like, especially with Disney. Disney has so many quote unquote girly things, merchandise wise, but this is like boy toys. You know what I mean?
It's
like
boy central.
It's boy stuff,
which is good.
Which is good. Like,
and it's girl stuff now too.
Well,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Well,
But
definitely with
throwing in
Ray.
girl
But
stuff.
like in the beginning,
Yes.
like the draw to it, I'm sure just there was nothing else like that out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Princess Leia is a Disney princess, man.
Is she considered a Disney princess?
No,
Probably
but
not.
that's what I keep telling my boss, who is like, I have to go to Disneyland. I'm like, you're gonna like it, because her boyfriend's making her go to Star Wars Land. She's not
Making her?
She's not a huge fan or whatever.
She'll like it.
Well, she can just go to Disneyland and shut up. How about
Exactly.
that?
Yeah.
Don't tell your boss I said that, but that's how I feel about it.
But George Lucas, we watched the opening ceremony of Galaxy's Edge, and George Lucas said when he was there, he was like, okay. He basically was like, this is amazing.
I mean, I don't think
he said it was he liked it.
I don't think he's
very soft-spoken dude.
Super bitter about his.
No, he
sale of
wanted
Star
to sell it.
Well, I don't know that for sure, but it didn't seem like even when the sale was happening that it was coming from like a spiteful or a
No, I don't
bad
think so.
place or anything like that. Like
Well,
I
don't
think
know
he
why
has,
it would.
I guess if you're going to sell your stuff to somebody.
yeah, and he's always had a pretty good partnership with Disney.
Yeah,
Like,
they
I
put
think
that Star Tours ride in real quick.
Star Tours was in there in like
80 something,
like that.
Yeah.
And Return of the Jedi came out in 83. So, it's always been a conversation, an ongoing relationship. And I think him relinquishing Lucasfilm to Disney is just kind of him saying, all right, I'm done with this particular thing.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I mean, there comes a point, and this is the way I look at it. There comes a point where if you have a legacy and you want that legacy to continue, but you don't feel like you either have the time, not that he doesn't have the time, but you don't have the energy, or you don't have the most up-to-date whatever, or you don't feel like you can do the best for it anymore.
Right.
It's like a kid. It's like giving your kid the best chance moving forward.
Right.
Because even though, which I mean, and I could be wrong, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but even though Star Wars is a good franchise, he didn't do the best with it 1, 2, and 3 wise, at least on the global view,
Correct.
as Disney has done with other things.
Sure.
So I think that it's a good preservation
It was.
strategy.
It was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and
I think so too.
whatever you may think about the newer Disney films, I think he did go into the sale of Lucasfilm with the thought that he was leaving it in capable hands.
Right.
You know, and that they would treat his baby basically with respect and aplomb and all
Right.
all that good stuff.
It's not like they're going to go and butcher the name of Star Wars.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. At least not a ton.
No. And I'm sure we'll talk about it more. And then you have people like Jon Favreau who just, they like Star Wars too. Everybody likes Star Wars. Star Wars will
Yeah.
never die. But back to the movie. I'm remembering now when we were watching it and the scenes at the end where they're all in the TIE fighters and they're trying to shoot this one very 2-meter apart spot on the Death Star that will trigger a detonation, which Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie, so this was kind of cool watching. I'm like, that's where they got the information. Like, that's what
Yeah.
they're supposed to do.
Rogue One is the best prequel.
Well, Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie,
For sure.
like, hands down. We can talk about that another day.
Yes.
But the scenes where they're just in the TIE fighters, like, just going through the Death Star, like, in the... I wish you
trench
could
run.
see what I'm doing with my hand right now, but they're, like, yeah, in the trenches, and, like, the guns are going off. All of that is so nostalgic to me, but I think it's because it was, like, those were the scenes for the original Star Tours. Was them...
That's what they poured it over.
Yeah. But that's like some of my favorite stuff of the movie is when they're talking to each other, like Red 1 signing off, Red 2,
Yeah.
la la la. Okay, we're gonna line them up and we're gonna do this. And then I remembered, that's why it's called Star Wars. Man, they're always fighting.
The space battles are
Space battle.
the best, aside from the
And he
Force,
did that all
which I love
practically?
the most. But the space battles are the best.
It
part.
looks so good.
Yes.
Like,
It's-
I
Well,
would
at
never
least
know.
in this movie, the space battles are better than the Force.
Yes, that's
in
very
this
true.
movie.
In this movie, for sure.
The Force was a little... I mean, I'm sure at the time it was super cool.
Yeah.
But in this movie, in comparison to Force we see now and Force that we've seen in later movies, it's like, ooh, wow, we doing like Tai Chi space
Oh, yeah.
Force movements
Yeah,
right
it's-
now.
It's getting crazy. It's in Super Saiyan levels of the Force. But yes, everything was done practically, and that just means that it was done without like heavy CG animation software. They use tiny models, rigged them up, somebody had to go in and make a model of the Death Star that you see from the distance, and then a model that the X-Wings are flying through, and then a model that, the Millennium Falcon is like flying around or whatever. So like gigantic to tiny to, medium size, all of these models, and then shoot them up against blue screens, and that's how they add in like the space in the background. And that's like it. And apparently they used dogfighting from like old war movies, like black and white war movies, and they kind of just modeled the space battles exactly after those. So it was like a World War II plane fight where you see on the ship, on the what's the
Aircraft
thing called?
carrier?
The aircraft carrier, which becomes the Death Star. It's just a gunner on there, and it's shooting and it's firing, and then you see the X-Wing flying by, and it's getting shot and also shooting like a TIE fighter off in the distance, and that equally relates to the aircraft carrier, the jet plane, and then another jet plane that the enemy is
Wow,
around.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
really interesting.
And it follows those shots exactly because it was really hard for them to like storyboard plane flying around and shooting each other and blowing stuff up.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so they had to just kind of copy stuff, which I like.
Well, nobody's
I
upset
appreciate
about it because it looks
No.
great. And if you think about it, it's a pretty long, especially the last one, is a pretty long space battle.
Yeah, it's a
for
crazy
them
long
to be
scene.
like
For the whole thing to just be
keep going and going and going.
Uh-huh.
But it's interesting because, like you said, I mean, they're following a real life scene, so that actually makes it more interesting. I
Yes.
think.
Yeah, the movie's nuts.
All right, let's talk money on this movie because I
Mm.
know we talked lots of money on
Money.
Money.
the franchise.
Yes. So, I'm going to read a couple numbers to you here because this movie was released in only 37 theaters initially on its first weekend.
37
theaters, and
That
compared
doesn't sound
to
in the whole U.S.
yes, in the whole U.S. and
in the whole everywhere.
and
Well,
that
it's
yes,
50
of
states,
everywhere.
so it wasn't
And
everywhere.
just in comparison, like when Avengers Endgame came out, or when Star Wars Episode 9 is coming out, I'm pretty sure they're released on like 4,500 screens or something like
Yeah.
that within the U.S.
Dang.
Yeah, so it's a lot of stuff.
35 screens.
But wasn't there less
Yeah.
theaters back then? Let's go with yes.
Yes, there were less theaters, and movie going was less popular. I mean, not that it was less popular, but it was less eventful. Like, this was the first movie that were
Okay.
like, there were lines and lines and lines for days and weeks and months to go see this movie.
Well, especially like you said, like movies were movies, but they weren't blockbuster movies.
Right. This was the first huge blockbuster. I think
This actually coined. I'm gonna say this is how you coin the term blockbuster.
yeah, they busted the whole block. So I believe before 1977, Fox's like profit margins for most years, like it was the average of like $33 to $39 million a year. And then when Star Wars came out, their profit for that year was like $79 million. So
You're welcome for that extra
it
40,
did,
babe.
Yes, it did stuff that they never thought it could do. Because once again, while they were filming it, it was a rinky-dinky. They all thought, like, what is this movie? It's going to be bad. It
Yeah.
looks terrible. All the actors aren't famous. The costumes are weird. They're speaking gobbledygook nonsense.
Yeah, and then they blew them away.
And then they blew
Which
them
makes it-
away.
which literally makes it even better, don't
Yeah.
you think?
So it came out on Memorial Day weekend in 1977, and it made $2.5 million in its first weekend. It overall grossed in the U.S. $307 million, and then worldwide it grossed $503 million. But that was in 1977, and if you adjust those numbers for inflation, Star Wars is the fourth highest grossing movie of all time.
This
what?
one.
Its adjusted gross box office is $2.9 to $3 billion.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
So people loved it.
Everyone went to go see Star Wars. Like, everybody.
Chaka wapa.
What? Louis. McClunky.
McClunky.
McClankle.
He keeps adding an extra letter. One more time.
McClanklelo.
Oh. Little McClunky. Yeah, so it really blew the roof off, and it inspired like what is modern blockbuster cinema today. The whole thing it really set it off, and I don't have a ton of like favorite 70s movies. There's like Jaws and Star Wars, but then I have a ton of favorite 80s movies and a ton
Yeah.
of favorite 90s movies and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
80s
that's
was
all,
good.
once again, built on the backs of Star Wars.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Star Wars.
Thanks, Star Wars.
Thanks, George.
And honestly, I'll make
George
this comment.
Lucas.
Like, I'm very happy that you made me watch all the Star Wars movies, because there's nothing more fun than nerding out with your significant other, like,
Truth.
over
Yeah.
something. Like, let's be real.
Feels
Truth.
good.
Harry Potter, Star Wars.
Mhm.
Star Wars is more than Harry Potter. And then just Disney. For you guys watch Lord of the Rings a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much into quite a few things.
Yeah.
It's
Got
the
a-
best.
Got a lot of fandoms going on.
So thanks,
know,
Star Wars.
But
We
yeah.
got lots of fandoms.
Star Wars is like a big one.
Oh, it's huge.
Like
It's a
on-
huge franchise.
If I had like a fandom pyramid, it'd be like at the bottom.
I didn't
It'd
even
be
know,
the
like-
thickest, widest,
It's
most
in
pyramid.
his Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It takes up the entire bottom.
More than superheroes?
pyramid.
Like, you like Star Wars better than superheroes?
You like no.
No.
No?
I need you to put Batman and Spider-Man on the
you know,
bottom rung
yeah, it's
right
kind of
here.
crazy.
Oh, poor
between-
Andre. He's struggling right
Between
now.
Batman and Spider-Man, and then I think Star Wars, and then I think Harry Potter. Those three make up like the big bottom three, and then there's a
Big
bunch of
bottom
there's,
three.
and then there's a bunch of little
And
stuff
then
that make
there's
up
like-
the tip of
And
the
then there's
iceberg.
like food. breathing. Water.
I don't know.
Going to the
Pokemon's
bathroom.
in there somewhere for him.
My pillow.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, Michelle.
Oh yeah, my wife. Yeah, that's in there. My dog, I guess.
Clunkly. Just gonna say that when
Money.
I'm mad at people at work and they have no McClunky.
My clunk.
They're gonna be like, "What?" I love it.
What's
Anyway, so when we rate this movie, I want us to rate it in a way. There's two ways we can rate this. And I think we should rate it in two ways.
Okay.
Because we don't know if we're going to do another Star Wars movie on here, listeners.
True.
But
let
if
us
you
know.
want us to, let us know. But I want us to rate this movie in two ways. I want us to rate this movie as a standalone, like no other Star Wars movies exist. And then I want us to rate it just for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where do you rank it, in that one? In terms of just the first 6, because at least we can all agree.
Well, I'll be honest, I haven't seen the first 3 since I was a kid, so I'll do my best.
Do your best, Emily. We won't include the newer ones, but just out of those ones where you think it reigns in the originals. Okay. Let's see. Luis, you want to go first?
Standalone 7. In the series, maybe third.
Third best or third?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that in-depth analysis on
You
your
You know,
point
that's
of
just
view.
the thing that I like about Luis, though, is he doesn't think about it. It just whatever is in his gut is what he says.
It is.
I have spoken.
I mean, you want me to rate it in terms of a scale, so I went straight to the scale and I rated it.
Just say I have spoken. Do it. Do it. Do
Don't
it.
know what else you want.
Do it.
McClanklet.
I have spoken.
Okay, Emily, try your best. Standalone, you can do that, though.
Yeah, standalone. I'm gonna give it from the 70s. Standalone. I'm gonna give it an 8. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's not like the best movie in the whole world, but it's a good movie. It's solid. In the whole first 6, it's definitely above the first 3, just because just continually story and visuals, everything fits better than some of the others.
Yes.
But I still like Empire Strikes Back the best out of them, so this is probably 2 or 3.
Okay.
So it's at the top of those.
Fair enough.
I think 4, 5, and 6 for me are obviously better than 1, 2, and 3, but
Yeah.
I remember not liking the 6th one very much.
You didn't like the Ewoks.
I just didn't like the whole. There was a lot of weird stuff happening
Everything
in that one.
Endor. Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
Endor.
I can see that.
Okay. Standalone, I agree. I'm going to give it an 8. It holds up super well. I mean, we're giving a 70s movie an 8. Everything stands up. The music I give 10 out of 10.
Oh, for sure.
Hands down. There's little things I think I would have I didn't need the CGI.
I was gonna say I think I would give it like an 8.5
if it
without
wasn't
what he
the
did in
remastered version.
1999.
Yeah, I didn't need
really
that.
wish that Disney Plus would put on just the
I don't-
77 original
Yeah,
version.
I don't need your
I
extra crap.
don't need it.
So I
I
can
just want to
see it.
appreciate it for what it is, and just the fact that it sparked a whole fandom is amazing because
It's like one of the first franchises of movies.
we love a good franchise, don't we? Yes, we
Yes.
do.
Well, we're especially our generation is predisposed. Disposed?
predisposed.
We're predisposed to loving franchises. So I feel like this started that whole fandom
Definitely.
idea.
Yeah.
And then for me, in terms of where it is in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I like it the 4th best. So my order is 6, 5, 3, 4, 2, 1. In case anybody is wanting to know.
So did you
Gotcha.
just count down?
So Return
No,
of
I
the
didn't.
Jedi,
It's 6,
Empire
5,
Strikes
and then
Back,
episode 3.
Revenge
Okay.
of the
1,
Sith,
2, 3. I really like
A
episode
New
3.
Hope, Attack
And
of
then
the
4,
Clones,
2,
Phantom
1.
Menace. Yeah.
In case anybody was wondering, because there's probably some nerds listening right now.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, babe.
When I rewatch, I will give you another.
The reason I like episode 3 a little bit more is because I always like when you see a villain become a villain.
For sure.
Like, that to me is really intriguing.
Well, I remember
like
as a kid really liking that movie.
terrifying.
But
the whole last 30 minutes.
But like as an adult, I'm looking
Rewatching
back
it
and
is-
I'm like, I don't know
well,
if
and
I'm gonna
it's
like
the
It's just
same
like
reason why
lackluster.
Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie. That last like 30-40 minutes will just blow your brains.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
but
a
the first hour sucked.
I know, but I don't.
First
It
hour
doesn't
slow.
matter to me. I'm okay with the build up. Like, it doesn't matter if the end is that good for me.
Yeah.
It's worth it. I'm a weirdo like
It's like a
that.
crock pot.
It punches home.
Yeah.
That's right. It's like, how
Yeah,
long
it
must
really-
I wait?
It
It's
really
like, oh,
punches
this is
home
good.
with
This
me.
is worth the wait.
And now the
Wow,
anticipation.
this pot
like-
roast is
Like,
fantastic.
I love when you think a movie sucks and then it ends and you're like, oh my
Oh,
god.
that was good.
I'm super weird.
Like
Anyways,
Captain
Yeah.
America: Civil War. Okay, keep going.
I'm
Whatever.
okay with that. It's fine.
Okay, as a standalone, I think I'm gonna give this movie an 8.5. It's really strong. It's a really good movie, and all of the technical aspects of the costuming. It won 7 Oscars, by the way. Did I mention that? It was nominated for
Dang.
11, and it won 7 Oscars.
Okay, that's a good percentage.
Mostly technical Oscars, like production design and costuming and stuff like that.
That makes sense.
And it was nominated for Best Picture that year, which is wild.
It didn't win, or did?
It did not win. It did not win.
What
Best
did it
Picture.
lose to? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head.
'Cause now I'm curious.
Yes, now I am curious as well. Hang on. one
Do
moment.
do
Thank
do
you for
do
music.
do do do
IMDb, where are your awards? Oh, wait, here it goes. Oh, won 6 Oscars, excuse me.
Oh, 6 Oscars. Wow, sorry, not 7.
It was
Well, how dare you give it
nominated-
an extra Oscar?
So upset.
It was nominated for
You know
Best
what?
Picture.
Would
Leo
he-
can't even get one, and he's over here giving extra Oscars.
He's all, I'll take that extra Oscar. Didn't he get one now?
No, he did. I'm just giving Leo.
But
a
there
hard
was the
time.
point where he didn't, and we used to make fun of him. Yes.
It
What?
lost to Rocky.
Oh, okay.
I've
I've never seen Rocky. Louis probably likes Rocky.
Bow, bow.
You like Rocky, Louis? Yeah, he said yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he likes Rocky.
Okay, babe. What's your order?
In terms of
The 6.
Star Wars movies, the first 6, this is in my number 2 slot. This is the second best Star Wars movie.
Whoa. How's your order?
So it goes Empire Strikes Back, number 5.
Well, can
And
you say
then-
the numbers for my
yes.
brain? Yeah.
5, 4, 6, 3, 1, 2.
What?
I hate Attack of the Clones.
Was that 2?
That's 2. That's the worst
Do you
one.
like it better
I like
than
it-
the pod
like-
races?
Pod racing is awesome.
I remember really liking
Pod racing is
too.
awesome. Darth Maul is awesome.
Yeah.
Ooh, the red guy with the
Yes.
horn.
The
Yeah.
music
Okay,
is awesome. Qui-Gon Jinn is awesome. There's a lot of awesome things. And then there's like Jar Jar Binks and Anakin is 9 years old. And politics. There's a whole
Yeah.
bunch of bad stuff.
In that, honestly, the pod racing and all that was so boring to me.
The pod racing scene that you see in the modern version, the one that's on Disney Plus, is
Boring.
double the length of what it was in the theater.
I'm gonna throw up.
He did another edition of Phantom Menace where he made that scene longer, and
But isn't Attack of the Clones which one is that again?
that's the
what
one
happens in
where Anakin is older and he's got a little Padawan braid, and he's
Oh
being
God,
like,
it's so
"Padme,
bad.
Sand, I hate
I just want to love you,
Sand
but
is
like
coarse and
you're much older than me, and
and
it's not
rough."
appropriate at all. But I'm gonna be creepy to you until you give in."
I think that's why I like it, because it's so terrible.
And
It's
then
great.
he like kills a bunch of sand people from Tatooine, and
Yeah, I like that.
them. I murdered them.
What does he say about sand? You always say it's so good.
I hate sand. It's rough and it's coarse and it gets everywhere.
Is that really what he
Okay,
said?
Anakin.
No, that's dead serious. That's
valid.
what he says.
That's why ain't nobody going to no beaches.
Sometimes Andre and I will just be sitting there, and I'm like, I hate sand.
And also, the sand is where I grew up as a slave. That's what you don't like. I think you're okay with sand.
Wow,
It's-
psychologist Andre.
Anyway.
Anyways, okay, that's
yeah,
an
so
okay
that's,
order.
So that's my
done.
order. And also, in terms of all 11 Star Wars movies,
Oh,
Episode 4 is number 2. It's still
Yeah?
It's still 1 and 2. They're the same.
The Last
5 and
Jedi
4.
is still above number 1 for me.
correct.
Thank you.
All right.
I just had to agree on that.
Oh, by the way, this has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Whoa.
Yes, very
I
critically.
mean, that's not surprising,
acclaimed.
right? It's a good movie.
It is a very good movie. I brought up some bad reviews. I don't know if we want to take time to read any of them.
Read just
Let
one.
me just read
One is funny.
Read a funny one.
Yeah,
A
let me
good
I love
one.
the funny
hang on.
one.
There
Because
was
it's so
there was one
ridiculous
that
when
was-
people get so mad over a movie. I'm like, calm down.
Excuse me.
That was pretty good.
I did not like.
I didn't like that. I don't know. We'll see what they didn't like.
They wore tan robes. That is just
But you're
such
right.
an awful characteristic
Duel of
trait.
the Fates, man.
Oh, here it is. Okay. This one is on IMDb. It's a 1 out of 10.
Oh,
Written in September of 2004.
okay.
The title is For Immature Minds Only.
What?
It says, after wanting to see this for nearly 2 decades, I finally got around to watching it.
What?
Pathetic.
You didn't want to watch it that bad.
First off, I actually did feel excited during the yellow bordered title sequence. I mean, the theme music kicked in and I thought I was really in for something special. My God, was I wrong. This film is unwatchable. We have this tin can going around, beeping every friggin' 2 seconds. Easily the most annoying thing I've ever had to endure since seeing Julie Andrews, a grown woman, by the way, actually skipping while singing a song about confidence and the sound of music.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
first off,
Then
this
the
is
dialogue sets
sacrilegious.
in, and let me tell you, I've never in my life heard anything so juvenile. Like, I can't even revert my brain back far enough to an age where this dialogue would seem even remotely interesting, fantastic, or fun. The whole movie, script, costumes, story is just one tacky, immature mess that absolutely stunned me in its awfulness, and I'm being completely serious. Turkey out of 5. Recommended for fans of Sesame Street, bandwagons, and all things overrated.
No Sesame Street watcher is going to like this necessarily.
That is actually untrue. It's
So
very
this dude
Muppety,
is-
okay.
This
It
dude's a
does-
real adult,
okay.
okay? He doesn't go around skipping and singing songs, all right?
He doesn't like
dare
Julie
he
Andrews.
insult
You can't.
Sound of Music.
That is the queen.
As soon as he equated this with Sound of Music, I was like,
Emily
all right.
lost her mind.
Excuse me, she is
opinion
my
isn't
number one
valid.
role model. That
Emily's
is
eyes got so
What
big.
the heck?
Because I immediately looked at you two like, oh, hell no. He did not
yeah,
just
we're
do
bringing
that.
up the
Oh my
queen right
goodness.
now.
Can't be doing that.
Yeah, so
Well,
that's
listeners,
the kind of person that rates
Listeners,
this movie lowly.
we want to know your order of the 6 movies. If you want to tell us more movies, go for it.
Yes.
We want to know
Go to the
if you
Instagram
want
post and
to
comment.
hear more Star Wars.
If you're on YouTube, comment your Star Wars order. Where do you rank the Star Wars movies?
For some reason, I was like, your Star Wars order, like you're at McDonald's. This is my order.
Can I get
This
a
is my
number
number
5?
one.
Can I get a Darth Vader sandwich?
Can I get a number 5 with just the last 30 minutes of 6? Thank you. All right.
Oh my gosh. That's funny. I like it.
Okay. Yeah. So that's it for Star Wars. What are we doing next week?
So next week we're gonna do a special feature, something that I've kind of been wanting to do, and it's gonna be around my birthday. It's January, so that means I get to pick my birthday episode. So we're doing something that I'm interested in, and I think maybe you guys are interested in too, but we'll see. We're gonna do a double feature
Double feature
of the Fantasias. So Fantasia and Fantasia 2000. I only remember Fantasia 2000 in very minuscule. Maybe just because I watch Fantasmic. I don't know.
I only remember
Chernabog.
Fantasia.
You only remember the regular Fantasia?
Yeah, I think so too.
I saw Fantasia 2000 once.
Oh, that's the one I watched
Once.
as a kid.
Yeah.
So this is
Oh,
going to be interesting. And I think they're both
well.
relatively short.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think they're like an hour
Yeah.
long each or something.
easy to watch.
So we're going to watch both and we're just going to talk about them. And
Yep.
don't these movies have no dialogue, so that'll be interesting.
Not a lot.
Lots of
It's
music.
like
Not a
the
lot of
introduction of the
Yeah.
composer.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
Yeah. So
And I actually have really been wanting to watch these for a while now. I just haven't gotten around to it. And so now
Just
is
like it took you 2 decades to get around to watch Star Wars. So
so now is the time
now is the
to
time.
watch
for
the
Star
Fantasias.
Wars and Fantasias.
There we go.
Yes,
Hippos.
indeedy.
Hippos.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to this extra long episode of
How long is
Star
it?
Wars. It's an
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half. If you want more Star Wars from us, just let us know. You can leave
Or
a comment.
listen to the crack.
Yes, actually, some more Star Wars is coming very shortly. So let us know on social media. We are at the Walt Vault Pod on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those places. Hit us up. Let us know how much Star Wars you want us to talk about. And if you want to hear us talk about even more Star Wars right now, we're going to talk about The Mandalorian on this next episode of A Crack in the Vault, our after show for our patrons on patreon.com/WaltVault. Go there. It's only $1. Very cheap to get access to a bunch of extra content. We got podcasts and video game gameplays, and I post my notes there, and sometimes we'll throw you
Handwritten.
a link or two. Yes, the
Oh,
notes for
God.
Star Wars are
Handwritten.
handwritten. Good luck. Have fun. I'm not responsible for this anymore. Yes.
You are responsible for that.
Sure.
You did that to yourself.
I couldn't possibly type this up before I post
I
this
really
episode.
wanted Emily to film you because he takes notes on his iPad, so he's writing with his Apple Pen like on his iPad, right? And every time he's like intensely watching Star Wars, and every time he like saw something like or thought of something he wanted to write down, he would like flick his wrist with his pen
He
in
like
it.
shakes his arm out,
And then
starts
he's
to
like,
write.
he's like, ooh, this is good.
I
And
think,
then
I
he
think that's
starts
just how I
writing.
write. I don't.
Andre's
I
a
won't
very
even lie,
good.
I think Andre's been doing that since high school.
I think
Yeah,
so too.
probably since
He's a
because he's
very.
so good. I no
Yeah.
offense, it's like lefties do weird stuff,
Yeah.
Whatever, dude.
and he just like shakes out that
Don't
left
hate
arm.
And
on the
Andre
lefties.
loves stream of consciousness. Like he loves doing that.
Yeah,
So.
for these notes, I mostly was just writing the plot because it kept getting to a plot point, and I was like, "That's cool," and then I write
Yeah.
it down.
You just did it right there
Yeah.
too. You were
Oh,
fake
He
air
did?
writing and
Oh
you
my
did
god,
it.
he did it
Is that it?
again.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
You fake air wrote and
guess
did
so.
your flick of the wrist.
Look at the wrist. Okay, anyways.
Anyway,
You're welcome.
yeah, so go there, leave us comments, do all that stuff. If you want to send us a message about specifically what we said in this episode, you can go to contact@thewaltvaultpod.com, send us an email, or you can send a voice memo to the email. We'll play it on the show. That'd be cool too. And we'll reply back to you or read your message on the show. I think that's it. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week for some Fantasia goodness. That's going to be it for now. May the Force be with you.
Oh.